everyone! I'm so glad you made it today. Today we're tossing boring worksheets out the window and squeezing every drop of CI magic out of whiteboards, paper scraps, and that random sock you found under your desk. If you've ever wished you could teach more with less, you're in the right place. We're about to turn your classroom clutter into a language powerhouse. Oh, and heads up, we're shaking things up later this month. We're moving to Sundays at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, starting this Sunday. I'll be joined by Jody Dinsmore and Paulina Brenner as we talk about how we all got started in CI. Join us live on YouTube or afterwards on your favorite podcast app. All right, markers ready? We'll be right back after this quick intro. And we're back. I also wanted to mention before I forget, let me go ahead and put the link in the chat. Our back to school boot camp is opening up on July 26th. I know it's already back to school time. Who's thinking about that? I walked into Target the other day and saw all the back to school stuff and go, oh my gosh. And I start back 3 weeks from yesterday is when I go back. So some of you start back in August. I feel for you because that's where I start. Some of you won't start back till September or late August. But either way, you want to be prepared. So take advantage and join our boot camp. You get full year's access to 10 extremely helpful classes that will get you started starting off the year right. So go ahead and check that out at mm.us/bootcamp. It opens on the 26th of July, but you don't have to look at it until it's time for you to go back to school. But snag it now before it's gone. So today we're talking about maximizing your CI. And let's first talk about that power of input. So who needs those shiny textbooks and overpriced workbooks when you've got you, the walking, talking CI machine? I know. Can you believe how much it really costs to adopt a textbook? It is so very expensive. And by the time textbooks come out, they're already obsolete. The information in there, obviously the grammar and the language isn't obsolete, but the references they make, the cultural references, are often very obsolete by the time they come out to you. Plus, textbooks are just so dry. It's like learning how to play a sport or a musical instrument by just reading a book. You actually need to live and breathe the language to actually acquire it. And textbooks just don't cut that. So, today we're proving you don't need a school supply budget the size of Texas, just high frequency structures and a dash of creativity. So our first strategy is the leveraging the high frequency structures. You want to focus on core language structures through repeated, compelling input rather than relying on worksheets or expensive materials. So I like to start with first the Super 7. This was an idea by Dr. Terry Waltz from her interpreting experience, and she came up with 7 areas of communication that translate closely, but not exactly, to simple verbs that we can use. And so traditionally, these are the verbs that we use in the Super 7. Translate into your own language. So there is, or there are, is, and one for location, because in Mandarin, where she was doing her experience, and in Spanish, we have two versions of is. One for locations and one for feelings. I'm not sorry. I messed up. Not feelings. One for descriptions. So we've got in Spanish, it's like estar and then ser. That's the one. So it's not feelings, it is descriptions. So is for descriptions. And then we have goes. We have has. So that's my 4, right? There is the 2 is, goes, has. So we're at 5. We have likes. And I'm missing one. Hose. I always forget. There is, so I, se, es, está, ba. Oh, wants. So those are your 7 that you have. And they are really effective to start with. And then I move up to, and why am I forgetting his name? Mike Pito. His added on and made them the sweet 16. At least for Spanish, there's 16 verbs. For everybody else, it's 15 because you only have one verb for is. And they, if I can try to remember these, let's see if I get them all in here. So we have, I always have a poster on my wall to help me remember these, but we have can, let's see, leaves, goes back, does, sees, gives, says. Do I have them all? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm missing 2. Oh, knows, can, leaves. Oh, and puts. So that gives me 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So those are your other ones. So I'll put the first 7 in here so you have a nice spot. There is, has, wants, goes, and likes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And remember, some like Spanish and Mandarin have 2 verbs for is, and then the other ones. That's where I start. And then I'll add to it any high frequency vocabulary. But that's my nugget that I want to make sure my kids know. Leaving level 1, they know those in present tense, in all forms of present tense. They need to know that by the end of level 1. That's what I'm really focusing on. Then I'll add some other ones. The textbook is going to have other vocabulary in there, and it's not going to be very useful. I know, like they have all the school supplies, and those things may be high frequency or somewhat high frequency while they're in school, but once they leave school, they're just not going to be. So I'm not focusing on that. What I am looking at is I will go through my textbook, and then I use the frequency dictionary. So it's titled Frequency Dictionary of, and if you go to my website, fill in language here. It's not available in every language, but most of the languages we teach here in the United States, they have this Frequency Dictionary of book. I have it in French, German, and Spanish, and it lists both alphabetically and in numerical order the top 2,000 to 5,000 words. The average person uses about 1,800 words on an everyday basis to be fluent in the language. We subconsciously know a lot more vocabulary, but the 1,800 words is what comes out of our mouth on a regular basis. So I'm looking at, and I will cull through my textbook vocabulary to to weed out some of the words so that I know which ones I want to focus on and which ones I don't. Because the textbook adds 50 to 100 words per chapter that kids are expected to know. And they're just not all that high frequency. So I want to call that. So if you go to my website, immediateimmersion.com, I have those books, the Frequency Dictionary, linked there so you can find the exact ones from Amazon and find the ones that work best for you, for your language. I love these books. They are well worth the money. I have them both physically and on Kindle because some of them are available on Kindle books. And it works so well for me just to look up and see which word should I choose. Lots of times, like for Spanish, there's 21 different ways to say everything. So which one is more common so I get the more bang for my buck? And I can look it up and find out which one's more common, and then you teach that word to my students. So we want to focus on that core vocabulary. We want to make sure that it's high frequency so that the kids get more bang for the buck. That's really, really important. And then we can use picture talk and movie talk or clip chat to repurpose those free images and video clips to spark discussion and scaffold comprehension in an engaging way. Now, I do not recommend looking for a thematic picture or thematic video to teach, because then you're focusing on that vocab, that thematic vocab, which is often low frequency. Instead, look for an engaging picture or an engaging video that's going to highly engage your students, and then just use high frequency vocabulary to talk about it. That's so much more important, because when you already start with something that's highly engaging or highly funny for the kids, you've already got their attention. And because high frequency vocabulary is high frequency, guess what? You don't have to really try to use it. It comes out naturally. And then you can scaffold that picture or that video to higher levels or lower levels depending on the grammar structures that you're using. Because we're working with the same high frequency vocabulary for all three levels. That doesn't change. But I can use, what would you do in a level 3? What does he do in a level 1? And what did he do in a level 2? Using the same high frequency vocabulary, but I'm just ratcheting it up or down depending on the level that I'm teaching. And just talk about these pictures. Ask your scaffolded questions, your scaffolded differentiated questions, your yes, no, your either or, your, sorry, I'm just checking on my dog. She's chewing on something and I wanted to make sure it was okay for her to chew on. And your who, what, where, when, how, and why questions. Ask the right question to the right student at the right time. That's what's going to be important. And that makes it very, very engaging. And then finally, boost that input with student created content. That's where you co-collaborate a story together. Have students illustrate, act out, or retell stories to enhance their own engagement and comprehension and build that confidence level. That is so very important. We want to build that confidence level so that they are confident using their second language. And we do that with all of these scaffolding techniques and attacking this high frequency vocabulary and this input from all different sides, through visuals, through audio, through kinesthetic, all these different ways that we can attack the vocabulary, that high frequency vocabulary, and maximize the input. We're setting our students up for incredible success. Next, she's still chomping away over here. Let's talk about reimagining common classroom objects for comprehensible input. So let's welcome to the magical land where whiteboards, markers, and that pile of index cards in your desk drawer become your superheroes. If you've got it lying around your classroom, we're about to turn it into pure language gold. Everything in your classroom can be used for teaching with comprehensible input. You've got, your whiteboard markers. Guess what? You can teach colors with those. Lots of things can be done with just the things you have in your classroom. So whiteboards and markers are instant CI tools. You can use quick write prompts, you can illustrate responses, and you can have live drawing dictations for interactive storytelling. So you can either, if you have class set of whiteboards, I have a class set of whiteboards. You can have kids, as you're telling a story, you could have them draw out what you are telling. Maybe it's a 4-scene story. They can divide their little mini whiteboard into 4 sections, and then you can illustrate each part. If you don't have access to whiteboards, I'll give you a really quick and dirty way to create them in your classroom. So buy a package of those not screen protectors, the pocket sleeves for paper. They're not that expensive if you buy them in bulk on Amazon. I think I bought like 100 or so, or maybe 200 for less than $10. You buy those, you put a piece of white paper inside, so that's your whiteboard, and then you get those vis-a-vis, the old overhead projector markers. Those work really well, and they can wipe them off and make their dry erase. So that's a good way to do it on a budget if you have. But you can buy a bulk of whiteboards, and they're not too expensive. I think you can get a class of 30 for under $100. It's been a few years since I bought mine, but I can't remember how much I spent. But it wasn't truly expensive because if I remember correctly, I bought it out of my own pocket, so I would not have spent too much on there. But they can use that on there. You can have them do little competitions like win, lose, or draw. Remember that little game or Pictionary? You can have kids draw things and kids guess the vocabulary item or retell a story from the drawings. All kinds of things that you can use those whiteboards and markers for. Paper strips and index cards are personalized story elements. You can have students create character names, plot points, or dialogue pieces to guide input in heavy activities. So, lots of different ways you can do this. I like the index cards, and I'll give them an index card, and I'll have them all make some kind of character on the index card. Then I'll collect those. Then I'll have everybody write some type of setting for each of on their index cards, and I'll collect those. Then I'll have a problem. Everybody has to come up with a problem, and I'll have them come up with that. So then I'll take those and I'll shuffle those all up, and then each kid will pick from my deck of character cards one character. And then everybody will pick from my deck of setting cards, and they'll pick a setting. And then they'll pick and they're blindly picking, by the way. They're not looking at them and choosing. They're just picking out of a deck. And then they'll do the same thing with a problem. And now we've got a scatterbrain way for them to come up with a story. And they can take those 3 elements and make a story for themselves. Another way you can do this is there's a website. I've always got to look it up, so bear with me a moment. I have it linked on my school computer, but let me do digital online story cubes. There is a spot. I think it's right here. It is. So let me put this link in here. It's called Story Dice. They have a version of this where you can buy the physical dice, but I like using the digital version. Um, and what it is, you can choose the different types, how many dice show up, and then you click on the roll, and then it's got these little pictures of things that kids have to incorporate in their story. And if it's not fair that some of these words they're not going to know. So what I will do is when I display this on my screen, I will tell them to, I'll write what the words are. So if they don't know what the words are, I'll put the word next to it so they know. Like I just rolled, and they've got a 5 dice or a 9 dice version. So like on my 9 dice, I've got a phone, a computer, a bobby pin. I don't even know how to say bobby pin in Spanish. Not high frequency. I'd look it up and put it up there. Dentures, glasses, welcome, a bus, a deck of cards, and a bike. So I would put the words up there, and then they have to find a way to use that to make a story. So it's a really fun activity to do that with. So there's lots of different ways to be able to do this. And then students can use these cards, these story elements, to come up with plot points or dialogue pieces to guide input-heavy activities. And then you've got the realia and found objects. So meaningful comprehension boosters use everyday objects from students' lives to build contextualized language discussions. So just things that I find that I have in my classroom that we can talk about. One of the games I like to play is I will take a box when I'm standing outside my room greeting my kids in the classroom, and I'll say, okay, I need you to pull something random from your backpack and put it in the box. And then the kids don't know what's in the box, and then we try to play 20 questions to try to figure out what's in the box. It's another fun way to bring in those things, everyday objects, realia, that kind of stuff, and use it to create input for our students. Lastly, let's talk about assessments. So making assessments work without those worksheets. Worksheets are loved by copy machines, but they are feared by trees. Let's ditch them and talk about how to actually see what your students understand with exit tickets, quick sketches, and sneaky listening checks that don't kill that vibe. So one of them is exit tickets are low prep CI assessments. So have students write or verbally summarize something they understood from class. I like to do this electronically. So you can do it in your classroom management system. You can do this in a Google form, or you can do this. I do it in formative.com. So I have everything my kids do in class is informative. So I use that as kind of my learning management system. So everything is there for them to find, everything about their lessons, and exit tickets are no different. So they can do that. I can have them give me a video exit ticket or an audio exit ticket or a multiple choice exit ticket or a free form exit ticket. I can have all of that kind of stuff done right there to have them tell me something. Lots of times, if it was like a conversation day, I'll have them re-answer the same conversation question in the target language as a video. Or I might have them tell me 3 things that you learned today, or 3 things you remember from the story, and I can have them do it depending on the level in English or the target language. So for lower levels where I'm really assessing comprehension, I need it in English to make sure they're just not parroting what they heard. But maybe in upper levels, I want them to do it in the target language, but in different words than were used in class. You can do quick sketches and retells where students draw a scene from a story or a discussion, then explain it in the target language. So you can have them, again, using your learning management system. This is where I would have used Flipgrid, but since I've switched over to using Formative for everything, I'll have them do this in Formative, but many learning management systems also have a video recording component. So I'll have them sketch something they learned today and then retell it from the sketch into the video on their computer. You can also do embedded listening checks. So ask comprehension questions mid-lesson instead of relying on written quizzes. You can also do this in your learning management system as well. I might ask 3 to 5 questions about a story that we did, and I'll ask them in the target language on the learning management system. And then after each question, the kids can record their audio to answer the question. It's a great way to be able to assess them quick, easy, and it's not pen and paper. It's a little bit different. And you have evidence, which is awesome because it records it and you can keep that and you have evidence to track throughout the year. So that's how you turn a stack of index cards and a dusty old whiteboard into a CI powerhouse. No pricey worksheets required. I'll tell you, I so rarely use the copy machine anymore. It's incredible. I just don't have to do that anymore. So I just love not having to make all those copies and wait in line behind everybody else. If you had fun, share this with your favorite teacher buddy. Smash that like button. Oops, I hit the wrong button. And subscribe so you don't miss our shiny new Sunday shows, because I told you we're starting this Sunday. So I want you to take advantage of that. Now, before you run, drop this in the comments. What's the weirdest thing you've ever used as a prop in your classroom? I promise I won't steal your idea. Probably. And here, let me tell you what mine was before we go. I asked years ago, I asked kids to donate any old kind of props that they had, and someone gave me this ugly opal ring in a ring box. And I keep this in my pocket every day of class because I never know when it's going to come up, but I want to have it ready when it does. So when any kind of something happens where it could be a great marriage proposal, I'll have one character get down on their one knee and I'll give them this ring box and they'll propose with that. So it's a really fun thing. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it's there, I have it ready to go. And what's great about that, once it has come out, there'll be other times where kids see this potential for it and they'll call, get the ring, get the ring, get the ring. And it's so very funny. So that's my funnest prop. Let me know what yours is, and I will see you next time. And hopefully you'll join us at 8 a.m. on Sunday Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to be joined by Jody Dinsmore and Paulino Brenner. And we're going to be talking about how we all got into CI. It's just a casual chat. And I hope you'll join us. After it airs live, we're going to put it on your favorite podcast app, so make sure you catch it there as well and that you subscribe. We've got one more live at 5, which will be next week, next Tuesday, and then we'll be fully moved over to the Sunday schedules. Also, if you are interested in doing one of our CI stories, we are looking for our next season of CI Story People. That's just everyday teachers talking about their experience. So if you're interested in that, let me go ahead and put that in here, mm.us/CI Stories. We'd love to have you join us for that, and you can schedule your date for that. And with that, I will see you next time. Everybody have a great day, and I hope to see you on Sunday. Bye-bye.